Folks, give me a minute and we'll talk about some really disturbing events happening inside of Russia over the last weekend. And the story begins on Saturday in the Cherkessia city of Cherkessia, where some 500 people rallied for the immediate expulsion of all of the people of the Jewish faith from the territory. In the old language of the Russian Empire, this was called a pogrom. And the long and bloody history of pogroms in Russia is not to be dismissed. It's had generational consequences. And it appears that what the Kremlin is doing today is leveraging the animus against Israel over the Palestinian conflict into internal domestic strife in order to distract from its own failures in the war in Ukraine. When we think, right, it's classic scapegoating of the worst kind, and Putin is all in on it. The same day that this happened in Cherkessia, in neighboring Dagestan, a crowd stormed this hotel demanding to see the passports of every person staying there, looking for Israelis. What they would do with them if they found them is unclear, but they certainly weren't going to invite them for tea. Now, it's important to remember here that this is happening inside of a country where there's no freedom of speech, where there's no freedom of assembly, where anybody who says anything against the government gets arrested and thrown in jail. You say the word war when you mean special military operation, you're looking at 20 years. Now, how was this possible then? Well, apparently, the police helped the crowd. They assisted the crowd in entering the hotel and then in having the crowd forcibly see everybody's passport and review them to make sure there were no Israelis there. Insanity. Absolute insanity. On Sunday, in the city of Nalchik, that's in the Kabardino-Balkarian Republic, the unfinished construction of the Jewish Community Center was set alight and burned to the ground. That same day, about the time that this fire happened, Red Wings Flight 4728 departed Tel Aviv for Dagestan. No one could have imagined what they would face when they landed. A mob swarmed the airport, forced their way out onto the landing apron, throwing rocks first at this United Arab Emirates plane, which they mistook for their target, I guess, and then at the Red Wings once it landed. Finally, police intervened and arrested 60 people and broke it up. But this should scare everybody. This should scare everybody. Why? Two of these incidents happened in Dagestan, one in a 70% Muslim majority district, but the other in Cherkessia is a Russian enclave. There's a deep well of 800 years of anti-Semitism preached from the Orthodox pulpit. There's no doubt about that there's that to draw on. And then, of course, the situation in Palestine. This is how Putin is engaging the conflict with Israel to create dissent inside his own borders and distract from his own failures. Now, when we think about Dagestan, why would he particularly want to have this kind of control over Dagestan? When Yevgeny Prigozhin had his failed rebellion, I will remind everybody that that very day, graffiti appeared all over Dagestan saying Dagestan out of the Russian Federation. Yevgeny Prigozhin's revolution was fodder for the independence movement inside of Dagestan. And I am convinced that our boy, Mad Vlad, is interested in doing everything he can to disrupt life for these people. But make no mistake, he's pulled out one of the oldest tropes there is and blamed it on the sons of Israel. This is the worst kind of manipulation of your own population at the expense of a minority of your population to distract from your own political agenda. It's obscene. It can't be allowed, and people shouldn't be falling for it. So be aware. We're likely to see more of this. The rabbi of the European Commission, the chief rabbi of the European Commission, has said that, in his opinion, it's time for Jewish folks inside of Russia to get out before they suffer violence at the hands of these mobs incited by the hatred and the failures of Vladimir Putin. It's distraction, folks, of the worst kind.